I've never been one to dramatize things, but what happened to me last year was so messed up that I have to share it with you. I'm hoping this will help me process it and maybe offer some advice if anyone else is in a similar situation. To start, I live in a big city, and the cost of living here is insane. I was barely making ends meet. My wages hadn't budged in years, while everything else just kept getting more expensive. I was drowning in bills, and my rent was the biggest problem. After months of barely scraping by, I knew I needed a roommate to make ends meet. I put up ads on every rental site I could think of. I was desperate, but also wary, knowing how risky it could be to just let anyone move in. I screened a lot of potential roommates, trying to find someone normal. Eventually, I came across this girl, Amy. She was about my age, had a steady job, and came across as a pretty normal person. I ran a background check, and everything came back clean. She seemed like a good fit. Amy would move in within 2 weeks. At first it was great. She was tidy, helped around the house, cleaned up after herself, and even washed the bathroom. Things seemed perfect. But then, little things started to bother me. I noticed that she would walk around the living room all night long. Like, I'm talking hours of pacing. I thought it was weird, but figured maybe she just had insomnia or something. When I asked her about it, she always said she was asleep. I knew she was lying. The pacing was too loud and persistent to be something that wasn't waking me up. Then, one night, things got way worse. It was late, and I heard rustling around in the living room. I was exhausted, so I just tried to ignore it. But then I heard what sounded like breathing. Slow, rhythmic, and unsettling breathing. I got out of bed to check it out. When I walked into the living room, I saw Amy on all fours under the coffee table. Her eyes locked onto me, and she made this horrible hissing sound, like a cat. I was seriously frozen with fear. She looked like something straight out of a horror movie. I bolted back to my room and locked the door. The next morning, I confronted her about it. She played it off like she had no idea what I was talking about, and said that she was asleep. I didn't know what to do, so I let it slide, hoping it was just a one-time thing. But it wasn't. A few nights later, I came home late. I thought I was alone since Amy's car was not in the driveway. I called out for her, but there was no answer. I went to my room, flipped on the lights, and froze. Amy was crouched in the corner of my room, making these strange noises. She was whispering and mumbling to herself in a way that made my skin crawl. I panicked and made up some excuse about needing to go visit my parents for a while. I left immediately and went to file papers to have her removed from the lease. She was gone within a week. It was a relief, but the whole experience left me deeply shaken. I'm now in a better place financially and can afford to live on my own. I don't think I'll ever have another roommate, though. I don't think I could handle that kind of situation again. So, if you're in a similar situation, take my advice. Be extra cautious about who you let into your home. Some things are better left avoided. So, I've got a story that's pretty messed up. I'm a freshman in college, and this whole experience has been a roller coaster to say the least. I just want to share what happened with my first roommate. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. When I first moved into my dorm, I was nervous like anyone would be. My roommate, Mike, was the first person I met in the dorm. He seemed alright at first, just as anxious as I was. But things took a dark turn pretty quickly. Mike had a temper that was genuinely frightening. It was like he'd blow up over the smallest stuff. His phone charger wouldn't reach the bed. He'd start cursing and throwing things. He'd shout if he forgot to plug in his laptop. It was disturbing how quickly he could go from 0 to 100. At first, I thought it was just the nerves, but it quickly became clear that this was more than just stress. This was actually who he was. One night, I came back to the dorm and found Mike with a girl I'd never seen before. I did not want to intrude, so I tried to give them some space. But things took a turn for the worse. Mike and this girl were arguing. I could hear them from my side of the room. He tried to kiss her, but she was pushing him away. I could see the look in her eyes, like she wanted to leave and that she was scared. Mike's face was just twisted with rage, and I felt a cold sweat run down my back when he started shouting that he would kill himself if she did not kiss him right then and there. He was getting more and more aggressive, and I could see he was physically grabbing her, not allowing her to leave. It was unbelievable. I had to step in. I told Mike to back off, trying to keep my voice steady even though my heart was racing. I managed to get between him and the girl. She was crying and she finally ran out of the room. The look Mike gave me, pure rage, made me think that he might actually kill me. I tried to calm him down, but he did not say a word. He just went quiet and calm, which was actually terrifying. That night, I was lying in bed, trying to process what had happened, when I woke up to the feeling of hands around my neck. It was dark, and Mike was trying to strangle me. I could not believe it. I struggled, fighting to get free, while he was screaming that I ruined his life by scaring away the girl. His voice was like something from a nightmare. I managed to overpower him and ran out of the dorm in full survival mode. I went straight to the campus police. They came to the dorm and Mike was arrested on the spot. Turns out, he had already crossed some serious lines with both me and that girl. The college expelled him, and I now have a new roommate who's been normal, thank God. I'm still a bit on edge, but it's so much better now. I'm just glad I got out of that situation alive. So that's my story. I hope it serves as a warning about how quickly things can go wrong. And I hope it stays a distant memory, because I don't want to ever go through anything like that again. This happened back in 2023, and it was absolutely traumatizing. I was dating this guy, Frankie. We had met at a festival, and both lived in Philadelphia. Well, we hit it off. He asked for my number, and we started dating shortly after that. Frankie lived in a nice apartment in Philly, close to the Eagle Stadium. He actually took me to a bunch of the games as dates, and they were so much fun. Where this story takes a really bad turn, though, was when I met his roommate, Josh. From the first time I met Josh, I could tell he was one of those guys who lingers at girls a little too long. He shook my hand when we first met, but I could also tell he was staring directly at my chest and barely making any eye contact. But me and Frankie were a fresh couple, and I did not want to cause any drama or difficulties right away. Around 2 months into dating, I was at Frankie's apartment. He was getting into the shower, and I was sitting in the living room just scrolling on my phone. Josh suddenly comes in and sits down right next to me. He gives me this really awkward hug and says he's so happy Frankie found a girl like me. He said he's so lucky and any guy would kill for a girl like me. I tried to casually laugh at that and went back to my phone, trying to be as nice as possible, but also not wanting to engage. He could tell I was being a bit quiet, and he bent down over the couch, like he had dropped something on the floor. I should mention I was in a skirt at this point. I did not fully watch him as he bent down, but I glanced up for a second, and I saw that he had his phone out. And I couldn't prove it, but it felt like he was trying to take a picture. He sat back up on the couch and then walked away to his room. I was feeling really paranoid. I couldn't tell if he had just taken a picture of me up my skirt or not. Frankie eventually got out of the shower, but I did not see anything because I wasn't 100% sure Josh did anything wrong yet. A week later, I invited Frankie over to my apartment because I was no longer feeling comfortable at his. It was supposed to be a nice dinner at my place with some wine. Frankie texted me and said that he was here, so I go to buzz him in. But it wasn't Frankie who walked in. It was Josh. And I was terrified and asked him what he was doing here. He just laughed and said, "You know why I'm here." He held up his phone and it was Frankie's phone that he was holding. He started explaining that ever since we first met, that I've been giving him the bedroom eyes. He said that the one day on the couch, he knew I was keeping my legs open for him. All of this was absolutely not true, and he started backing me into the kitchen corner. He kept saying how he's better looking than Frankie and is a better provider, and he can satisfy me better. I was crying at this point, as we were both alone in my apartment. And as he started pinning me in the corner of the kitchen, I reached for the pot of water I was boiling for the pasta dinner. I grabbed it and threw it at his crotch. You would have thought I killed him. But while he was screaming in agony, I bolted out the door and down to my car. And I drove back to Frankie's, where he was in his apartment, confused and looking for his phone. I explained everything to him, and we both went to the police. And here's the real kicker. Josh had some sexual assault allegations already pending on him, and when we went to the cops, this was the nail in the coffin. He was evicted from the apartment and is now currently serving jail time. He was an absolute monster. Frankie and me have now been living together. Frankie completely cut off Josh from his life. To all my girls out there, you don't have to take the harassment from creepy men. Be strong and stand up for yourself. And as for you, Josh, fuck you. My first college roommate was a nightmare. We met online before school started, and she seemed fine enough. Friendly, even. We chatted a lot and agreed to room together. As freshmen, I thought this was going to be great, but we didn't even last 3 months. Let me get this out of the way. I'm gay. I've dated women for a while, and I'm pretty upfront about it. She didn't seem to have a problem with that at first. We got along okay, but then we went to this club together, and everything started to fall apart. There was this guy she liked. He was, strange to say the least. He wore a necklace made of longhorn rib bones and claimed to be some kind of real-life Tarzan. Honestly, I did not get the appeal, but whatever. We went out one night and I was dancing with this girl I liked. Out of nowhere, Tarzan Boy comes up from behind me and started grinding on me. I shot him a dirty look and moved away with this girl. I thought that was the end of it. Then the shit really hit the fan. My roommate had driven us to the club. After a while, I texted her to see if she was ready to go. She did not answer. Eventually, I realized that she had left me there, and I had no ride home. I ended up grabbing a cab, furious the entire way back. When I got to our room, she was in bed, pretending to be asleep and ignoring me. I was pissed, but I let it go. I figured maybe she was embarrassed or something. But after that night, she changed completely. She started bringing random guys back to our dorm in the middle of the night while I was trying to sleep. One day, she shaved her head, all 52 inches of beautiful red hair gone. She dyed what she had left black. Then came the piercings, lip, nipples, everything. It was a full-blown identity crisis. Things got worse about a week after the club incident. I came back to our dorm to find her literally throwing my stuff out the windows. I freaked out, obviously, and when I tried to stop her, she attacked me with a stapler, screaming like some kind of animal. I bolted out of the room and ran to the RA. Turns out she had taken my dorm key, so I couldn't even get back in without her permission. I had no idea what the hell was going on, so I did the only thing that made sense. I filed a complaint with our RA. They scheduled this mandatory sit-down between the two of us, thinking it might heal the situation. Yeah, right. So, the first thing she says when we sit down is that I'm a slut for dancing with her man at the club. I just stared at her and laughed because, well, I'm gay. It was absolutely absurd. She told the RA that she saw Tarzan Boy walk up to me and thought I was into him, so she stormed off and left me there. I explained, again, that I'm into women and had no interest in him. That's when she dropped a bomb. She told the RA that every time I changed clothes in our tiny-ass dorm room, it was traumatizing because she had been molested by a girl when she was younger. She claimed that I was scarring her mentally and demanded that I walk all the way down to the hall to the community bathrooms to change, every time. Oh, and that wasn't all. She also told me I wasn't allowed to eat my favorite potato chips anymore because they smelled like farts. I couldn't drink coffee either because the noise the coffee pot made scared her. It was one ridiculous demand after another. Eventually, the RA decided we weren't compatible and arranged for us to switch rooms. I've never been so relieved in my life. So, I have to get this off my chest. A few years ago, I lived in a house with 2 other roommates, and we were doing fine. We got along, and our pets, 2 cats, a dog, and my puppy, were like family. But one of the roommates couldn't keep up with the rent, so she had to move out. That's when NR, or new roommate, came into the picture. I didn't know much about her, just that she needed a place and could cover the rent. Fine, right? Well, she moved in and brought everything. Boxes filled the living room, floor to ceiling. No joke. She barely unpacked anything for 2 weeks. I work weird hours, so I'm not home much, but I wanted to have friends over that weekend. Her stuff was literally everywhere, so I left a couple of polite notes asking if she could move her boxes. Apparently, she did not like that. I was in the kitchen with one of my roommates when NR stormed in. She was pissed, like full-on angry, ranting about my notes. I wasn't expecting that kind of reaction, especially because I didn't think what I did was rude, but whatever. She yelled about how she was busy and how I should have just talked to her in person. It got really heated, really fast. Here's where it gets bad. As she was leaving my kitchen, my 3-month-old puppy, who was sleeping next to the counter, did not even see her coming. She kicked him, hard, straight into the wall. I can barely explain what happened after that because I honestly don't remember. I was seeing red. I just remember screaming at her, ready to lose it completely. But my other roommate grabbed me and dragged me into my room to calm me down. I was shaking, so furious I couldn't even form words. We rushed my puppy to the vet that night. His mouth was bleeding badly. He lost a tooth, and he had some bruising. It was the scariest few hours waiting for the vet to tell me he'd be okay. He eventually healed, physically at least, but he's been terrified of women ever since. He used to be the sweetest, most friendly dog. Now he growls or runs from any female that tries to approach him, and it's all because of that night. And NR? She did not even apologize. She acted like it was an accident, but I swear she did it on purpose. My other roommates thought the same. We made her pay for all the vet bills. Thankfully, the law was on my side there. But that's it. No charges, no real consequences, just a bill to pay. I guess the only positive thing is that it's now on a record, but that doesn't exactly make my dog feel safe around people again. I moved out not long after this. There was no way I was going to stay in the same house as her, not after what she did. The last straw was when she started acting like the victim, telling everyone I was overreacting and that it wasn't her fault. And I couldn't deal with the gaslighting and her presence anymore, so I packed up and left as soon as I could. Looking back, I still can't believe what happened. I've never been the type to get into fights or yell at people, but that night, I could have easily done something I regretted if my roommate had not stepped in. I guess the moral of the story is this: no matter how desperate you are for a roommate, vet them better than we did. And always trust your gut. Because NR, she's the kind of person I hope I never see again.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Spooky. If you've made it this far, congratulations. You survived. If you did not know, I have an Instagram. Follow me on there so we can connect. I also have a Patreon. On there, you'll have direct access to me and can see the upcoming videos, polls, and soon-to-be exclusive stories only shared on there. If that's something that interests you, please consider joining. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Stay spooky, and I'll see you in the next video.